Introduction. What your dreams are trying to tell you. Have you ever awakened from a dream so vivid, so persistent, that it felt more real than the morning light? Perhaps it was a landscape you visited again and again, or a silent figure waiting at the end of a corridor, watching with an expectant gaze. You are not alone in this mystery. We often dismiss these nocturnal echoes as random static, yet they possess a quiet, insistent intelligence. Why do they return, and what are they trying to tell you? The theater of your mind never truly closes. While your physical body rests and the world outside fades into a quiet hum, a deeper, more ancient part of you begins to stir. This is the unconscious mind, a vast, uncharted ocean beneath the surface of your daily awareness, holding the echoes of every experience, every suppressed emotion, and every unexamined belief you have ever carried. When you dream, you are not merely playing out random scenes, you are receiving transmissions from this inner world. Think of your dreams as a bridge. During the day, you live within the boundaries of your conscious mind, making decisions, navigating relationships, and managing responsibilities. You see life through the lens of logic and external expectations. Yet, there is a profound depth to your being that logic cannot reach. There is a you that exists beneath the persona you present to the world. As the ancient wisdom states, the kingdom of God is within you. This profound truth suggests that your most significant journey is not one that spans the globe, but one that leads inward. Dreams serve as the compass for this interior pilgrimage. Why does every human being dream? It is not a biological accident or a simple brain cleaning process. It is a fundamental mechanism of consciousness. Throughout history, from the thinkers of antiquity to modern psychologists, there has been a recurring recognition that dreams are a vital dialogue between the person you think you are and the person you are becoming. Your unconscious speaks a language that is entirely its own, a language of images, sensations, and symbols. It avoids the dry, literal prose of the daytime mind because literalism is often too rigid to capture the complexity of the human soul. When you feel a surge of grief, your unconscious might not show you a funeral, it might show you a withered garden or a bridge crumbling into a dark river. When you are standing on the precipice of a personal breakthrough, you may not dream of a promotion or a change in circumstances, but rather of learning to fly, or opening a door that has been locked for years. These symbols are not random, they are carefully chosen mirrors reflecting your internal state. They translate the abstract, often overwhelming landscape of your emotions into visual stories you can actually hold in your mind. You may have noticed that some dreams do not merely visit you once and fade, they cycle back. They are the recurring invitations to look at something you have been avoiding. Whether it is a fear you haven't named, a relationship dynamic that leaves you feeling small, or a hope you have tucked away out of self-protection, these dreams are persistent because the message they carry remains unread. The unconscious is patient, but it is also relentless. It understands that you cannot fully heal what you refuse to acknowledge. By paying attention to these recurring themes, you begin a process of deep self-discovery. You stop viewing your nights as wasted time and start seeing them as an extension of your growth. You begin to realize that your unconscious is not an adversary trying to startle you with nightmares or confuse you with bizarre imagery, but a mentor. It is an ally working toward your wholeness, even when that work requires walking through the shadows of your own past. This exploration into your inner world requires a shift in perspective. It requires you to stop asking, "What does this dream mean?" as if it were a riddle with a single, dictionary-defined answer. Instead, begin asking, "What is this dream inviting me to feel? What part of myself is asking for my attention?" When you engage with your dreams in this way, you move from being a passive observer of your nocturnal life to an active participant in your own spiritual and emotional evolution. The following chapters will serve as your guide through this terrain. We will look at why these images return, how to decode the symbols that populate your sleep, and how to embrace the wisdom waiting for you in the quiet, hidden corners of your mind. There is a profound intelligence working within you, shaping your path, and calling you toward a greater understanding of your true self. The door is already open. The journey inward has already begun. Chapter 1, The Hidden Language of Dreams. Imagine walking through a bustling foreign city where you do not speak the local tongue. The people are animated, the signs are vibrant and full of color, and the energy is palpable, yet the deeper meaning of the conversation swirling around you remains just out of reach. You catch glimpses of intent in the gestures of others, a sense of urgency in their expressions, but you are effectively a stranger in a land of familiar faces. This is precisely how most of us experience our nightly dream life. We wake up with the residue of a story, the feeling of a chase, the warmth of a long-lost embrace, or the cold dread of a cliff edge, yet we struggle to translate the experience into the plain, logical language of our waking day. We assume that because we cannot immediately articulate the meaning of these images, they must be nonsensical. However, to label the language of the unconscious as nonsense is a failure of translation, not a failure of intelligence. Your unconscious mind is not a chaotic filing cabinet of random memories, it is a sophisticated, ancient system of communication. It speaks in symbols, metaphors, and archetypal narratives because these are the raw materials of the soul. Logic and linear language are tools of the ego. The conscious, rational self that manages your taxes, schedules your meetings, and navigates social norms. But the ego is a thin skin stretched over a much deeper, more expansive ocean. To communicate with the depths, the unconscious must bypass the rigid structure of logic and speak in a dialect that resonates directly with your emotional and spiritual core. When you dream, you are receiving letters from your deeper self, written in a cipher of imagery that bypasses the censor of your conscious intellect. Consider why we are drawn to stories, myths, and parables. Why do we find such profound resonance in the journeys of heroes or the tragedies of ancient figures? It is because these stories bypass our rational defenses and speak to the universal human condition. Your dreams operate on this same principle. If your unconscious simply whispered, "You are feeling insecure in your current career," you might rationalize that away or ignore it entirely. You are quite adept at protecting your ego from uncomfortable truths. But if your unconscious paints a dream of you standing before a vast, audience-filled stage while wearing clothes that are completely inappropriate, perhaps you are barefoot or suddenly find yourself in a costume you haven't worn in years. The feeling of vulnerability and exposure becomes unavoidable. You cannot argue with the visceral reality of that experience. The image cuts through the noise of your daily justifications and presents the raw, emotional truth of your internal state. The primary reason we struggle to understand this language is our insistence that everything must be literal. We live in an age that prizes empirical evidence and tangible data. We want the world, and by extension our own minds, to be neatly categorized. Yet, the unconscious is not a scientist, it is an artist. It doesn't care for facts, it cares for meaning. When you dream of a house you've never seen, your mind is not showing you real estate. It is mapping your own psyche. A house is a universal symbol for the self. The rooms represent different aspects of your character, the basement is the place of forgotten memories or repressed experiences, and the attic is where you store your spiritual aspirations or lofty ideals. If you approach a dream about a house by asking, "Where is this place in the real world?" you lose the entire message. You must instead ask, "What room am I avoiding? What part of my life feels cluttered or locked away?" This transition from literalism to symbolic thinking is the key to unlocking your inner wisdom. When you begin to see your life through the lens of symbolism, the world becomes a place of constant conversation. You start to notice that the themes that haunt your dreams are often the same themes that ripple through your waking choices. You might be dreaming of a broken bridge, and simultaneously, you might be struggling to find a way to connect with a loved one or reconcile a disagreement at work. The symbol is the bridge between the two worlds. It is an invitation to look at the tension in your life from a different angle, one that isn't burdened by the pressure of immediate action. Many of the great thinkers and psychologists of the last century observed that we are guided by forces we barely comprehend. They realized that the psyche seeks balance. If you are living too rigidly, your dreams will likely be filled with wild, chaotic, or fluid imagery, water, storms, or chaotic landscapes, trying to loosen the grip of your overactive control. If you are feeling lost or disconnected from your purpose, you may encounter figures of guidance, ancient teachers, or vast, open landscapes that inspire awe and perspective. These are not coincidences. They are restorative efforts by your own mind to bring you back into alignment. Your unconscious mind is essentially a self-regulating system, constantly striving to move you toward what is often called the wholeness of the individual. This process is not always comfortable. It is often challenging to realize that the hidden parts of your life are not hidden from the world, but hidden from you. The language of dreams forces you to take responsibility for your emotional landscape. It demands a level of honesty that your conscious mind often wants to skip over. But this is the beauty of the journey. By learning to speak this language, you are not just interpreting images, you are reclaiming parts of your personality that have been dormant or suppressed. You are expanding the horizon of your own consciousness. You are discovering that you are far more complex, more capable, and more deeply connected to the roots of human existence than your daily routine would ever lead you to believe. As we progress, we will explore the specific mechanisms of this symbolic language. We will look at why certain symbols recur, how they function as archetypes, and why they serve as the most effective tools for emotional healing. The goal is to move beyond the frustration of not understanding what your mind is saying and to enter into a fluid, active, and deeply rewarding relationship with the unconscious. You are the author of your dreams, but more importantly, you are the reader. The stories you tell yourself at night are the most honest books you will ever open. To begin this practice, you must let go of the need to control the interpretation. Trust that your mind knows how to speak to you. Even if a dream feels confusing, start by simply recording the feeling it leaves behind. Was it a sense of relief? Was it a lingering anxiety? Was it a profound stillness? These emotions are the anchor points of the message. The symbol provides the visual, but the emotion provides the meaning. When you bridge the two, you create a direct line of communication between the rational, everyday self and the infinite, intuitive depth of your spirit. The language of the unconscious is not a foreign one, it is your own native tongue, long forgotten, waiting for you to listen once more. Summary of key concepts. The symbolic shift, moving from a literal interpretation of life to a metaphorical, symbolic understanding of inner experience. The ego versus the unconscious, recognizing that while the conscious mind manages our daily tasks, the unconscious manages our deep emotional and spiritual health. The psyche as an artist. Understanding that the mind uses images and sensations to communicate complex emotional truths that logic cannot touch. Self-regulation, viewing dreams as an attempt by the psyche to restore balance and guide the individual toward wholeness. The power of emotion, using emotional resonance as the primary tool for decoding dream content, rather than rigid dictionary-based interpretations. As you reflect on the ideas we have explored, consider how often you have dismissed a vivid dream as mere static. In our next section, we will delve into the specific reasons why certain dreams insist on returning, week after week, acting as sentinels of your inner world that refuse to move aside. Chapter 2, Why the Same Dreams Keep Returning. There is a distinct, haunting quality to a recurring dream. It arrives with a sense of familiarity that borders on the uncanny. You find yourself back in that same house, climbing that same flight of stairs, or facing the same obstacle that you seem to encounter every few weeks. When a dream returns, it is not merely a repetition of imagery, it is a signal of a stagnant energy. It indicates that you are circling a particular lesson, an unresolved emotion, or a hidden potential that you have yet to fully integrate into your waking life. Think of these dreams as a persistent knock at your door. You might pretend you are not home, turn down the lights, and stay very quiet, hoping the visitor will eventually tire and leave. But the unconscious is not easily discouraged. It returns because the message it bears is essential for your growth. The primary reason a dream repeats is that the psychological work it is attempting to initiate remains incomplete. Your mind is an architect of your reality, and it is deeply committed to your evolution. When you have a recurring dream, it is often a sign that you are stuck in a cycle of behavior or thought that no longer serves your path toward wholeness. For instance, if you frequently dream that you are late for a critical event, your unconscious mind may be highlighting a persistent conflict between your desire for achievement and your fear of failure. You are not actually worried about the train or the meeting, you are likely worried about whether you are measuring up to your own expectations. The dream acts as a barometer for your internal stress, reflecting the same pressure you feel in your waking hours, but expressing it through the lens of a deadline you can never quite meet. Why does the mind choose this repetitive method? It is a matter of efficiency. When a lesson is vital to your development, your psyche will prioritize it until you have adequately processed the associated emotion. If you were to resolve the underlying conflict, perhaps by practicing self-compassion, setting more realistic goals, or acknowledging a fear you have been suppressing, the dream would often lose its urgency and disappear. The recurrence is not a curse, it is a testament to the fact that you are currently in a transition period of your life. You are holding on to a belief or a habit that is ready to be released, but you have not yet found the courage or the insight to let it go. The dream remains your faithful, if somewhat insistent, companion, mirroring your stagnation until you choose to move forward. Consider the role of the unattended parts of your life. We often go through our days wearing masks, performing roles that we believe are expected of us. We are the dutiful employee, the reliable friend, or the stoic parent. In this performance, we often stifle the parts of ourselves that do not fit the narrative. We might ignore our need for creativity, our capacity for anger, or our desire for solitude. When you do this, those suppressed parts do not disappear, they migrate to the unconscious. A recurring dream is frequently a spotlight cast by the unconscious onto these abandoned territories. It is saying, you are neglecting this piece of your soul, and until you reclaim it, this cycle will continue. Many of us look for shortcuts. We want a quick fix for our anxieties or a simple answer to our existential questions. We turn to external solutions, hoping that a change in career, location, or relationship status will finally quiet the unrest within. But recurring dreams remind us that the work is internal. If you change your circumstances without changing your inner alignment, the dream will simply find a new setting to express the same old tension. A person who fears intimacy may dream of being locked out of a room in one context, and after moving to a new city, they may dream of being unable to open a heavy iron gate. The imagery shifts, but the theme remains constant because the inner state has not yet shifted. This is why self-awareness is the ultimate prerequisite for transformation. We must also consider the collective influence on our dreams. We do not exist in a vacuum. We carry the imprints of our culture, our upbringing, and the broader human narrative. Sometimes a recurring dream reflects a struggle that is not just personal, but part of a larger, archetypal human experience. The struggle for identity, the search for meaning, and the fear of mortality are themes that have echoed through the ages. When you tap into these themes, your dreams become more than just personal reflections. They become a participation in a universal process of shedding the old and emerging into the new. This is what it means to be alive, to be constantly engaged in the labor of refining who you are. It is helpful to start treating these repetitive experiences as data points. When you find yourself in the same dream landscape again, try to pause within the narrative. If you are being chased, stop running. If you are standing before a locked door, stop trying to find the key and instead look at the wall itself. What does the wall represent? What is behind it? By changing your reaction within the dream, you are signaling to your unconscious that you are ready to engage with the reality it is presenting. You are no longer just a passive observer, you are an explorer. This small shift in perspective, from fear to curiosity, is the most potent tool you have for breaking a cycle. Understand that these dreams will naturally stop once their message has been fully integrated. There is no need to fear that you will be stuck in this loop forever. The moment you achieve the emotional maturity to understand the fear or the desire the dream is highlighting, it will dissolve, having fulfilled its purpose. You will then be free to encounter new challenges and new layers of your being. This is the natural rhythm of a conscious life. A cycle of discovery, struggle, understanding, and then, a peaceful release. As you look at your own patterns, do not judge yourself for having the same dream repeatedly. Instead, thank your mind for its persistence. It is protecting you from remaining stagnant. It is calling you toward a greater capacity for self-reflection. When you view your dreams through the lens of growth, you cease to be a victim of your own unconsciousness and start to become a conscious partner in the creation of your life's narrative. You are, at every moment, becoming more of who you are meant to be. The journey requires patience, especially with the parts of us that are slow to shift. Summary of key concepts. Persistent messages, viewing recurring dreams as essential indicators of unresolved emotions or stagnant personal growth. The power of integration, understanding that the dream cycle breaks only when the underlying psychological or emotional lesson is genuinely grasped. Internal versus external change, recognizing that moving away from problems in the physical world will not silence dreams if the internal struggle remains unaddressed. Active engagement, encouraging the listener to change their response within the dream, from fear to curiosity, to signal a shift in conscious awareness. The process of becoming. Framing recurring dreams not as a sign of weakness, but as a normal, necessary, and helpful part of the human journey toward maturation. We have now established that the unconscious is an active participant in your growth, using recurring themes as its primary way of guiding you. In our next chapter, we will explore the specific vocabulary of your mind. We will discuss how your psyche selects the perfect symbols to mirror your inner landscape, and how you can begin to decode the visual metaphors that define your own unique experience. Chapter 3, The Symbols Your Mind Uses to Speak. If you were to try and explain the feeling of true joy to someone who had never experienced it, how would you do it? You might use words like light, expansion, or warmth. If you were to describe sorrow, you might naturally reach for images of heaviness, shadow, or rain. Even in our daily speech, we rely on symbols to convey the depth of our inner experience because plain language is often too thin to hold the weight of our emotions. Your dreams are simply an extension of this human tendency. They are the poets of your inner world, speaking in a language that values emotional resonance over factual accuracy. To understand why your mind selects a specific symbol, a bird in flight, a rusting key, or a staircase leading into darkness, you must first recognize that these images are the bridge between your conscious reality and the vast, unmapped territory of your unconscious. Every symbol that appears in your dream is like a complex, multi-layered file stored in your psyche. Consider the symbol of water. To one person, a vast ocean might represent an overwhelming anxiety, a feeling of being lost in a depth they cannot control. To another, that same ocean might symbolize a spiritual awakening, a place of peace, and a return to the source of life. The symbol itself is neutral. It is your personal history, your culture, and your current emotional state that infuse it with meaning. When you encounter a symbol, your mind is not pulling a random card from a deck. It is selecting an image that perfectly captures the specific texture of your current inner experience. When you dream of a locked gate, your mind isn't just showing you a boundary, it is showing you the exact nature of your hesitation, your protection, or perhaps your sense of exclusion. This is why rigid dream dictionaries, the kind that tell you a snake means betrayal or a house means your body, are often so unhelpful. They treat the fluid, living language of the soul as if it were a static code to be broken. But your symbols are yours alone. They are woven from the threads of your own life. To decode them, you must become an archaeologist of your own memory. Ask yourself, what does this object mean to me in my waking life? If you dream of a dog, don't look up a generic definition. Instead, think of your childhood pets. Think of your current feelings toward animals. Does a dog represent unconditional loyalty, or does it trigger a childhood memory of fear? Your unconscious is a master of your personal history, and it will draw upon your unique associations to craft a message that speaks directly to you. The unconscious also uses symbols to condense vast amounts of information. Think of how a single photograph can evoke an entire decade of your life. Similarly, a dream symbol can hold a lifetime of emotional patterns in one image. When you dream of a bridge, your mind is not just talking about crossing a river, it is potentially speaking to a transition, a connection between two sides of your personality, or a fear of letting go of the familiar shore. Because the unconscious functions outside of time as we know it, it can layer multiple meanings into one scene. This is why a dream can feel so profound upon waking. You are essentially seeing a panoramic view of your current psychological state, compressed into a single, highly charged moment. As you begin to pay attention to these symbols, you will start to notice patterns. You might realize that your mind uses nature symbols, like storms, gardens, or mountains, when it wants to talk about your fundamental state of being, your health, or your spiritual growth. You might notice that built environments, houses, offices, or vehicles, appear when you are processing your role in the world, your career, or your relationships. This is not a rule, but a tendency. The psyche uses the setting to tell you which department of your life it is addressing. If you are struggling with your identity and purpose, do not be surprised if your dreams take you into structures that are under construction or buildings you have never seen but feel you should know. This symbolic language is also a way for your mind to hold tension. In your waking life, you may be deeply conflicted. You want to pursue a new path, but you are afraid of the instability it might bring. Your conscious mind can only hold one of these thoughts at a time, or perhaps oscillate between them in a state of stress. But in a dream, your unconscious can present both sides simultaneously. You might dream of being in a fast-moving car, representing your drive and ambition, while also being unable to find the steering wheel, representing your loss of control. You are seeing the conflict clearly, displayed in a way that doesn't demand immediate action, but simply asks for your observation. This is the first step toward resolution, seeing the two opposing forces clearly without being consumed by the anxiety they cause. The more you engage with your symbols, the more you will notice your intuition sharpening. You will start to see these metaphors in your waking life as well. You might look at a tree in a park and suddenly appreciate it not just as a plant, but as a symbol of growth, resilience, or rootedness. You are learning to read the world the way your unconscious reads you. This is the beginning of a truly integrated life. You are bridging the gap between the internal and external. You are realizing that the world outside is as much a mirror as the world within. The symbols you encounter during the day are just as significant as the ones you see at night. They are all part of the same ongoing, unfolding story of your consciousness. Do not be discouraged if a symbol remains elusive for a while. Sometimes, a symbol is like a seed. It is planted in your mind, and it needs time to germinate. It may take days or even weeks of reflection before the true meaning reveals itself. The goal is not to have an answer by breakfast. The goal is to remain in a state of curious receptivity. Treat your dreams as you would a conversation with a wise friend. You listen, you reflect, you ask questions, and you allow the wisdom to settle in its own time. You are developing a lifelong skill, not finishing a crossword puzzle. As you continue this practice, you will notice that your symbols become more refined. Your unconscious learns from your attention. When you begin to acknowledge and work with the images it provides, it tends to offer more clarity, more insight, and more profound invitations to grow. It is a reciprocal relationship. You show the unconscious that you are listening, and in return, it rewards you with deeper revelations. You are becoming fluent in the language of your own soul, a language that will guide you, heal you, and eventually, lead you to a profound sense of inner wisdom and peace. Summary of key concepts. The Emotional Dictionary, rejecting generic dream dictionaries in favor of personal associations, as symbols are uniquely tied to your history and experiences. Compression of meaning, recognizing that symbols act as metaphors that condense complex, multi-layered emotional truths into singular, impactful images. Thematic settings, observing how your mind uses different types of environments, like nature versus architecture, to signify which part of your life is being addressed. Holding tension. Understanding that symbols allow your mind to visualize conflicting emotions or paths simultaneously, aiding in resolution and acceptance. Reciprocity, viewing the interpretation process as an ongoing, strengthening relationship with the unconscious, where your active attention leads to clearer and more helpful messages. We have now explored how your mind constructs its own unique vocabulary of symbols. But what is the source of these images? Where do these powerful, sometimes unsettling, figures and themes originate? In our next chapter, we will turn our attention to one of the most misunderstood and essential parts of your psyche, the shadow, the repository of the hidden, the ignored. Chapter 4, Meeting Your Shadow. There is a version of yourself that you have carefully kept hidden. It is not necessarily a version that is bad or evil, but it is the part of you that has been tucked away to ensure you remain acceptable to others, safe from judgment, and aligned with the identity you have built for yourself. Carl Jung, one of the most profound explorers of the human mind, called this the shadow. Your shadow contains everything you have rejected about yourself. Your raw, unrefined desires, your forgotten strengths, your dormant anger, and your deepest insecurities. It is not a place you visit by choice, it is a place you often encounter through the unexpected, sometimes startling, images that appear in your dreams. When you find yourself running from a faceless pursuer, or suddenly acting in a way that feels completely uncharacteristic, you are likely brushing against the edge of your own shadow. To understand the shadow, you must understand the process of social conditioning. From childhood, we learn that certain traits are praised and others are penalized. We learn that kindness is good, while selfishness is bad, that success is rewarded, while failure is met with disappointment. In our attempt to be good or successful, we begin to divide ourselves. We push the traits that don't fit our desired image into the basement of our consciousness. But energy, once created, cannot be destroyed. The anger you suppressed in the workplace, the envy you felt toward a friend but refused to acknowledge, or the ambition you labeled as too much, all of these remain active, buzzing beneath the surface. They do not vanish. They accumulate, eventually forming a powerful, autonomous force that seeks expression. Your dreams are the primary stage where the shadow performs. Because you do not acknowledge these parts of yourself during the day, the unconscious brings them to life at night. This is why nightmares can be so intense. When you see a monster or a dark, imposing figure in your sleep, it is rarely a sign of external danger, it is a manifestation of something you have denied. The monster is simply an embodiment of an energy you have refused to claim. If you possess a strength that you have been too afraid to use, perhaps the capacity to stand up for yourself or to set a firm boundary, that strength might appear in a dream as a fierce, aggressive character. Your unconscious is literally shadowing you, showing you what you are missing or what you have left behind. The irony of the shadow is that it is often the home of your greatest potential. We tend to associate the shadow only with negative things, but that is a mistake. If you were raised to be quiet and compliant, your independence, your assertiveness, and your ability to lead are often pushed into the shadow because they feel dangerous or unpleasant. By denying these traits, you become muted, unable to fully inhabit your own power. Your dreams will often try to hand this power back to you. They might show you taking charge of a chaotic situation or standing your ground against an adversary. They are inviting you to integrate these qualities, to bring them out of the basement and into the light of your conscious personality. Meeting your shadow is not about becoming a bad person, it is about becoming a whole person. It is an act of profound emotional healing. When you look at the dark figures in your dreams with curiosity rather than repulsion, the dynamic shifts. If you are being chased by an assailant, try to stop and face them in your imagination. Ask them, what do you want? What are you trying to show me? In many cases, you will find that the figure is not trying to hurt you, but to protect you or to force you to acknowledge an urgent need you have ignored. When you stop running, the figure often changes shape. The monster may transform into a guide, or the threat may dissolve into a message of clarity. This is the moment of integration, the point where you reclaim a part of yourself that was previously exiled. This process requires a significant amount of humility. It is much easier to blame our problems on external circumstances than to admit that our own shadow plays a role in our struggles. It is easier to believe that we are victims of our environment than to accept that we have a capacity for the same darkness, and the same greatness, that we perceive in others. But this is the path of self-awareness. When you recognize that the traits you find most annoying in others are often the ones you have suppressed in yourself, you develop a deep, empathetic understanding of humanity. You stop judging the world so harshly because you realize that everyone is, to some extent, struggling to manage their own shadow. The goal of shadow work is not to eliminate it, that is impossible, as the shadow is an inherent part of the human psyche, but to achieve a conscious relationship with it. You want to reach a state where you are not being controlled by your unconscious impulses, but are instead aware of them and can choose how to express them. You want to be a person who can acknowledge their anger without being destructive, who can hold their ambition without becoming ruthless, and who can embrace their sensitivity without feeling weak. This is the essence of maturity. It is the ability to hold all parts of yourself in the light, refusing to let any aspect of your humanity be condemned to the darkness of the unconscious. As you reflect on your own life, look for the areas where you feel most reactive. Where do you feel a surge of judgment toward others? Where do you feel a persistent, gnawing sense of dissatisfaction? These are the signposts pointing directly to your shadow. Your dreams are already giving you the map. They are showing you the figures and the scenes that demand your attention. Do not fear them. They are not there to haunt you. They are there to complete you. They are the missing pieces of your identity, waiting for you to recognize their value so that you can move forward with greater strength, authenticity, and peace. Summary of key concepts. Defining the shadow. Understanding the shadow as the repository of rejected traits, desires, and potential strengths that we hide to maintain our conscious identity. The necessity of integration, recognizing that suppressed energy does not disappear but becomes a powerful, often disruptive force that demands acknowledgement. The dream as a stage, viewing intense or frightening dream figures not as threats, but as manifestations of the shadow that reflect aspects of ourselves we have disowned. The potential for growth, realizing that the shadow contains not only negative qualities but also the essential, latent powers required for personal wholeness. The path of maturity, moving from being controlled by the unconscious to consciously integrating the shadow, resulting in greater authenticity, emotional balance, and empathy. We have now begun to uncover the hidden parts of your inner world. In the next chapter, we will explore the universal blueprints that govern this territory. The archetypes. These are Chapter 5, The Archetypes Living Within You. If you were to look closely at the stories of the world, the myths of ancient Greece, the folktales of rural Africa, the epics of the East, and even the modern narratives filling our cinemas, you would find a surprising consistency. You would find the hero who sets out on a perilous journey, the wise mentor who provides guidance, the trickster who disrupts order, and the nurturing caregiver who sustains life. These are not merely cultural coincidences. They are what Carl Jung termed archetypes, fundamental, universal patterns of experience that are embedded deep within the collective unconscious of all humanity. They are the primordial structures of the psyche, the invisible scripts that shape how we view the world, how we relate to others, and how we interpret our own lives. When you dream, you are not just dreaming as an individual, you are dreaming as a participant in a grand, age-old human drama, guided by these archetypal figures. Archetypes are the primary colors of the soul. Just as a few primary colors can be mixed to create an infinite variety of shades, these few archetypal patterns combine to form the vast complexity of your personality. Think of them as the inherited wisdom of your species. You do not learn what a mother represents, you are born with an innate understanding of the nurturing, protective, and sometimes consuming energy associated with that figure. You do not learn the concept of a journey. You are born with an internal impulse to seek, to grow, and to overcome obstacles. These archetypes are not in your head in a physical sense, but they are the blueprints that your unconscious mind uses to structure your experience. When you dream, you encounter these archetypes as characters or situations that feel incredibly significant, even if you cannot explain why. Consider the hero archetype. This is the part of you that is driven to transcend your current limitations. It is the voice that says, I can do more, I can be better, or I must face this challenge. In your dreams, the hero might appear as a younger, more courageous version of yourself, or perhaps a stranger who leads you through a dangerous landscape. When you dream of fighting a dragon or climbing a mountain, your unconscious is engaging the hero archetype to help you mobilize your strength. It is telling you that you are ready for a transformation. You are moving from a state of comfort to a state of growth, and your mind is providing the narrative framework you need to make that journey. Then, there is the wise mentor. You have likely encountered this figure in your sleep when you are feeling lost or in need of guidance. The mentor might be an elderly teacher, a quiet sage, or even an animal that speaks with profound clarity. Unlike the hero, who is all about action and courage, the mentor represents the quiet, intuitive, and deep-seated wisdom that you already possess. This archetype is a reminder that you are not on this journey alone, you have access to a wellspring of inner truth that can offer perspective when you are overwhelmed. When the mentor appears in your dreams, pay close attention. They are not telling you what to do, but rather helping you see the situation from a higher, more detached, and more insightful vantage point. We must also acknowledge the trickster. This is the archetype that thrives on chaos, humor, and the disruption of rigid patterns. If you find yourself dreaming of a figure who is constantly changing their appearance, making jokes when things are serious, or leading you into unpredictable situations, you are witnessing the trickster at work. While this figure can be frustrating, the trickster is an essential agent of change. Life can become stagnant, and your ego can become too attached to the way things should be. The trickster arrives to shatter these illusions, to humble you, and to force you to adapt. It is a reminder that reality is far more fluid, and far more humorous, than your conscious mind is willing to admit. Recognizing these archetypes in your dreams allows you to move from a place of confusion to a place of understanding. You realize that your personal struggles are part of a larger, universal experience. When you feel a deep, burning ambition, you are feeling the energy of the hero. When you feel a sense of profound, quiet calm in the midst of turmoil, you are accessing the wisdom of the sage. When you feel the urge to break the rules and play, you are dancing with the trickster. You stop seeing your emotions and impulses as random, fleeting events, and instead start seeing them as expressions of these ancient, powerful forces. These archetypes are also the keys to your personal development. We are all called to integrate different archetypal energies at different stages of our lives. In your youth, you might be driven by the energy of the hero, focused on achievement and the conquest of the world. In midlife, you might be called to integrate the energy of the mentor, focusing on depth, meaning, and the passing on of wisdom. If you resist these calls, if you try to remain a hero when the time has come for you to be a mentor, you will feel a sense of imbalance, a feeling that your life is losing its luster. Your dreams will often reveal this imbalance. They will show you where you are out of sync with your own growth. Integrating an archetype is not about becoming a caricature. It is about accessing the positive potential of that energy. You want the courage of the hero without the recklessness, you want the insight of the mentor without the detachment from the world, you want the playfulness of the trickster without the disregard for responsibility. This is the work of a lifetime. It is the process of becoming a fully realized human being, one who is capable of inhabiting all these different roles with grace and awareness. As you reflect on your recent dreams, try to identify the archetypal energy that was present. Did you feel the need to conquer? To learn? To disrupt? To nurture? By labeling these energies, you gain a sense of distance. You are no longer just being the energy, you are witnessing it. This is the foundation of true consciousness. You are realizing that you are the director of the play, not just one of the actors. You are the one who chooses how to weave these archetypal threads into the tapestry of your life. This is the power you possess, to recognize the ancient patterns within you and to use them to create a life that is deeply, uniquely, and authentically yours. Summary of key concepts. Universal blueprints, understanding that archetypes are primordial, shared patterns of human experience that structure the unconscious mind. The power of narrative. Recognizing how archetypal figures like the hero, the mentor, and the trickster provide the essential scripts for your personal growth. The function of archetypes, viewing these figures as tools the mind uses to help you navigate transitions, find wisdom, and break stagnant patterns. The call to integration, realizing that different stages of life require you to call upon different archetypal energies to maintain balance and continue your development. From actor to director. Using the recognition of archetypes to move from being a reactive participant in your life's drama to being the conscious observer and director of your own growth. Now that we understand the archetypal figures inhabiting your dreams, we can look more closely at the emotions that drive them. In our next chapter, we will explore the intersection of dreams, fear, and emotional healing, and discover how your most intense nightly experiences are actually the most profound. Chapter 6, Dreams, Fear, and Emotional Healing. Fear is perhaps the most misunderstood emotion in the human experience. We often treat it as an enemy, a dark intruder that threatens our peace of mind and forces us into states of paralysis or avoidance. Yet, within the quiet, symbolic landscape of your dreams, fear is rarely a threat to be eradicated. Instead, it is an urgent messenger, a siren calling your attention to a part of your life that requires healing. When you wake up from a dream trembling or breathless, your conscious mind naturally recoils, wanting to forget the image as quickly as possible. But the wisdom of your inner self suggests a different approach. Do not run from the fear. Turn toward it. Within that intense emotional surge lies the key to a profound breakthrough in your personal transformation. Think of an emotional wound as something akin to a physical injury that has been poorly bandaged. If you ignore it, the infection grows, spreading its influence into your daily actions, your choices, and your relationships. You may find yourself becoming unusually irritable, withdrawing from people you love, or feeling a persistent, low-level anxiety that you cannot name. Your unconscious mind sees this infection. It knows that the wound needs fresh air and attention to begin the true process of healing. So, it crafts a dream that mirrors the intensity of the trauma or the suppression. It brings the fear to the surface so that you can finally see it clearly. This is not meant to harm you, it is meant to set you free. Consider why we experience nightmares. A nightmare is often a cry for help from your inner world. If you are struggling with a deep-seated belief that you are unworthy of love, your unconscious might manifest a dream of abandonment, of being left alone in a vast, empty wilderness. The fear you feel in that dream is the exact feeling of the original emotional bruise. By experiencing that fear in the safety of your sleep, you are being invited to confront it from a position of adulthood. You are no longer that small, vulnerable person who first felt the pain, you are now the observer, the one who can hold that fear with compassion, understand its origin, and begin to soothe it. This is the essence of emotional healing. The reparenting of the self through the integration of past fears. This process requires a radical shift in how you relate to your own internal landscape. We often judge ourselves for being afraid. We tell ourselves we should be stronger or more logical. But strength is not the absence of fear, it is the capacity to sit with it, to listen to it, and to let it inform you. When you have a frightening dream, try to approach it with the curiosity of a researcher. Instead of focusing on the terrifying imagery, the shadows, the threats, the dark figures, focus entirely on the emotional sensation. Where do you feel it in your body? Is it a tightening in your chest? A fluttering in your stomach? By grounding yourself in the physical sensation, you bypass the ego's urge to create a dramatic story and move straight into the heart of the emotion. Once you have identified the feeling, ask yourself, in what part of my waking life am I currently feeling this same sensation? You will be surprised at how often the answer emerges. You might realize that the monster in your dream is actually the person you have been afraid to set a boundary with. You might realize that the falling sensation is your subconscious reaction to a career risk you are terrified of taking. The dream is not predicting a catastrophe, it is reflecting your current internal climate. By naming the source of the fear, you strip it of its mysterious power. You move from being a victim of an unknown dread to being an agent of your own clarity. Emotional healing also involves understanding the shadow side of your reactions. Sometimes, the fear you feel in a dream is actually a projection of your own untapped power. If you are afraid of a person who is acting aggressively in your dream, it may be because you have suppressed your own capacity for assertion. You view that energy as scary, because you have not yet learned how to wield it with intention and grace. When you reclaim that power, when you learn to speak your truth clearly and firmly, the monster in your dream often disappears or transforms. It no longer has any reason to be there, because the energy it was representing has been successfully integrated into your personality. This is the path to emotional maturity. It is the steady, courageous work of facing the parts of yourself that you have previously labeled as too dangerous or too painful. When you do this, you develop a sense of inner stability that cannot be shaken by external events. You learn that your emotions are like waves, they rise and fall, they can be intense and even terrifying, but they are not you. You are the ocean that contains them. You are the vast, stable consciousness that observes the play of these emotions without being consumed by them. This realization is the ultimate goal of the dream work. It is the point where you move from emotional turbulence to emotional wisdom. As you reflect on your most challenging dreams, look for the gift hidden within the intensity. What is the fear asking you to learn? Is it asking you to be more vulnerable? To be more assertive? To be more forgiving of yourself? Every nightmare is a lesson in disguise, waiting for you to find the courage to read the script. Do not shy away from the intensity of your dream life. Embrace it as the raw material of your soul's growth. You are building a sanctuary within yourself, a place where no emotion is too dark or too difficult to be seen and understood. You are becoming a person who can hold the weight of their own history with grace, turning the fire of fear into the light of self-awareness. Summary of key concepts. Fear as a messenger, reimagining fear in dreams not as an enemy, but as an urgent signal indicating where emotional healing is required. Somatic awareness, using the physical sensations of fear in a dream, rather than the narrative details, as a direct path to identifying the source of the emotional distress. Reparenting the self, understanding that confronting past fears in the safety of dreams allows you to process and heal wounds that have remained untreated since childhood. Demasking the threat, recognizing that what appears as a monster is often a projection of suppressed personal power or a boundary you need to establish in your waking life. The ocean metaphor, developing emotional maturity by realizing that you are the stable observer of your emotions, capable of holding intense feelings without being controlled by them. Now that we have addressed the role of fear, we are ready to move into a deeper layer of your unconscious. In the next chapter, we will explore the nature of nightmares themselves, the most vivid and challenging of all dream experiences, and learn how to transform them into powerful catalysts for your. Chapter 7, What Nightmares Are Trying to Teach You. The nightmare is the most misunderstood visitor in the theater of your mind. When you wake up, heart racing and breath caught in your throat, your instinct is to push the experience away, to label it as a glitch, a bit of psychological static, or a byproduct of a restless mind. We are taught to view the nightmare as something to be escaped. Yet, from the perspective of deep psychological growth, a nightmare is never a random occurrence. It is a calculated, desperate attempt by your unconscious mind to grab your attention. It is the psychic equivalent of a smoke alarm going off in a locked room. Your mind is telling you that something is smoldering, an unaddressed fear, a stagnant habit, or a stifled truth, and it has reached a level of intensity that can no longer be ignored. Think of a recurring nightmare not as a sentence, but as a question. If you are being chased by an unseen entity, your unconscious is not trying to threaten your physical safety, it is illustrating a dynamic in your waking life where you are running away from yourself. Perhaps you are avoiding a difficult conversation, delaying a necessary life change, or suppressing a talent that is begging to be used. The entity in the dream is simply a shadow of the energy you have disowned. When you stop, when you turn to face that darkness, you are performing a profound act of integration. You are saying to your unconscious, I see you. I am willing to look at what I have been trying to hide. In that moment of courage, the nature of the nightmare begins to change. The beauty of the nightmare lies in its ability to strip away your ego's defenses. During the day, you have the luxury of rationalization. You can tell yourself that everything is fine, that your unhappiness is just a passing phase, or that your choices are perfectly logical. But the nightmare does not care for your carefully constructed narrative. It deals in the raw, unvarnished truth of your emotional reality. It shows you the fragility of the structures you have built. If you dream of your home burning down or collapsing, your mind is not predicting a tragedy. It is expressing a feeling that the very foundation of your current identity is no longer stable. It is a prompt to reconsider who you are and what you are building your life upon. Many people find that their most persistent nightmares center on themes of being trapped, exposed, or falling. These are archetypal experiences of powerlessness. They are the unconscious mind's way of reflecting your relationship with control. When you live in a state of constant, rigid control, your dreams will often show you scenarios where that control is stripped away. This is not a punishment. It is a necessary exercise in humility. Your psyche is trying to teach you how to exist in the world without the armor of perfectionism. It is inviting you to experience the vulnerability of being human, to find a sense of security that does not depend on everything going according to plan. To work with a nightmare, you must become a student of its mechanics. Keep a journal by your bed. As soon as you wake, before the rationalizing mind can rewrite the story, capture the images. Focus particularly on the feeling that accompanied the fear. Was it a sense of betrayal? A feeling of being small? A sensation of being overwhelmed by expectations? Once you have identified the core emotion, map it onto your waking life. Where do you feel small? Where do you feel trapped? Where do you feel as though you are falling? The nightmare is a map, and you are the explorer. You will find that when you bring these hidden tensions into the light of your conscious awareness, their grip on your nightly life begins to loosen. Sometimes, a nightmare is a gateway to the shadow that we discussed earlier. It is the manifestation of the traits you have buried because they didn't match the image you wanted to project. If you dream of being attacked by someone who is acting with extreme anger, it is possible that your own suppressed capacity for anger is trying to find a voice. You have denied yourself the right to be firm, to be direct, or to defend your boundaries, and your unconscious is acting it out in a distorted way. The nightmare is not telling you to be violent, it is telling you to be assertive. It is teaching you that anger, when understood and integrated, is a source of protection and clarity. The transformation of a nightmare is one of the most rewarding experiences in the journey of self-discovery. When you finally understand the message, when you see that the scary image was actually a guardian of a hidden truth, the nightmare loses its terror. It may even disappear entirely, having served its purpose. You will find yourself feeling lighter, more authentic, and more deeply connected to your own power. You are learning that the contents of your mind, no matter how intense or frightening they seem, are ultimately tools for your own evolution. You are learning that there is nothing in your unconscious that you cannot face, nothing that cannot be transformed through the steady application of self-awareness. Do not fear the intensity of your dreams. If they are vivid, if they are frightening, if they are persistent, these are signs of a mind that is actively working to make you whole. Your unconscious is not a stranger, it is the deepest, most honest version of you. It is a source of wisdom that transcends the limitations of your daytime intellect. By listening to the nightmares, by engaging with the terror, you are reclaiming the parts of yourself that were lost in the shadows. You are becoming a person who can navigate both the light and the dark with equal composure. This is the mark of a true seeker. The willingness to walk through the fire of the unknown to reach the clarity of the self. Summary of key concepts. The nightmare as an alarm, recognizing that nightmares are not random, but essential alerts indicating that an unaddressed inner issue requires immediate attention. The courage to turn, understanding that facing the frightening images within a dream, rather than running, is the primary mechanism for integrating suppressed energy. Striping away defenses. Appreciating how nightmares bypass ego-driven rationalizations to present the raw, honest truth of your emotional state. Learning through loss of control, viewing dreams of being trapped or falling as invitations to build a sense of inner security that doesn't rely on rigid external control. The gateway to power, realizing that the most terrifying dream figures are often manifestations of essential traits you have disowned, which, when integrated, provide clarity and strength. We have now learned how to turn even the most challenging dream experiences into stepping stones for our personal growth. In our next chapter, we will discuss the broader goal of this work, the journey toward wholeness. We will explore what it means to align the conscious and unconscious, and how this integration leads to the Chapter 8, the journey toward wholeness. If you were to look at your life as a work of art, you might realize that for many years, you have been painting only with a few select colors. You have prioritized the practical, the logical, and the expected. This is the natural way we build a life. We need structure to function, to earn a living, to sustain relationships, and to navigate society. But there is a point in the human journey where the old canvas feels too small. You begin to sense that there is a wider range of colors available to you, deeper hues of emotion, brighter sparks of creativity, and the dark, grounding tones of the unknown. This realization is the beginning of the journey toward wholeness. It is the transition from being a person who is merely functioning to a person who is truly becoming. Carl Jung described this process as individuation. It is the lifelong task of bringing the disparate, fragmented parts of your personality into a coherent, balanced whole. Think of it as the alignment of your conscious identity, the person you show the world, with the vast, hidden potential of your unconscious. For much of your life, these two realms have been working in separate directions. The conscious mind pushes for order and predictability, while the unconscious, through your dreams, pushes for expansion, depth, and the inclusion of those parts of yourself you have discarded or ignored. The journey toward wholeness is the bridge between these two. It is the process of listening to the quiet, insistent voice of the soul and integrating its wisdom into your daily reality. You may wonder if this means you must change your life entirely. Does integration require a dramatic exit from your current circumstances? Usually, the answer is no. True wholeness is not found in fleeing your responsibilities, it is found in the way you inhabit them. It is the difference between performing a role and living a truth. When you begin to integrate your dreams and your unconscious insights, you start to bring a new level of presence to everything you do. You are no longer just the parent, the employee, or the neighbor. You are a conscious individual who understands that your inner state dictates your outer experience. You stop waiting for external changes to bring you peace and start generating that peace from within. This path requires a high degree of honesty. You must be willing to look at the parts of your life that feel off or out of alignment. Are you living a life that reflects your true values, or are you living a life that reflects someone else's expectations? Your dreams are constantly providing the answer to this question. They show you where you are making compromises, where you are hiding your light, and where you are settling for less than what you are capable of being. When you start to pay attention, you realize that your dissatisfaction is not a problem to be solved, but a signal that you are ready for a new level of growth. It is a sign that the old version of you is outgrowing its current skin. The journey toward wholeness is also a path of deep acceptance. It is the realization that you are not a fix-it project. You are not a machine that needs repair. You are a living organism, a seed that is designed to unfold in its own time and in its own way. You cannot force your own transformation. You can only create the conditions in which it can occur. That is the true function of the work we have been discussing. To create the space in your conscious awareness for the unconscious to be seen, heard, and welcomed. By keeping a journal, by reflecting on your symbols, and by sitting with your emotions, you are essentially tilling the soil of your soul, preparing it for the growth that is inevitable. You will find that as you move toward wholeness, your dreams shift in tone. They become less about conflict and more about guidance. They become less about the struggle and more about the opening. You may start to see images of growth, of blooming, of vast horizons, and of figures that offer clear, direct insight. You are no longer fighting with yourself, you are in a collaborative partnership with your own inner depths. This is a profound shift in consciousness. It is the moment where you realize that your intuition is not just a vague feeling, but a reliable source of wisdom that is rooted in the truth of who you are. This integration also brings a different kind of relationship with the world around you. When you stop projecting your unresolved issues onto others, you become more present, more compassionate, and more grounded. You stop looking for others to complete you, to make you happy, or to validate your worth. You are becoming a complete person on your own. You are finding that the kingdom is indeed within, just as the ancient teachings have always maintained. This inner fullness is the foundation of all healthy outward connections. You have more to offer the world because you are no longer trying to fill a void in yourself. Remember that this is a process, not a destination. You do not reach wholeness like a milestone on a road. You move into a state of living wholeness, which is a constant practice of realignment. There will be days when you feel fragmented, days when the old fears return, and days when you feel completely out of touch. That is part of the rhythm. Do not let those moments discourage you. They are just reminders to return to the practice. They are invitations to look at your dreams again, to sit with your emotions once more, and to deepen your commitment to the truth. As you reflect on where you stand on this journey, be gentle with yourself. You are doing the most important work a human being can do. You are answering the call to be fully, authentically you. Every dream you decode, every emotion you feel, and every bit of awareness you bring to your inner life is a step toward that wholeness. You are the architect of your own soul, and every night, you are given the opportunity to lay another stone in the foundation of the person you are becoming. The path is open, the wisdom is waiting, and you are far more capable than you have ever dared to imagine. Summary of key concepts. The transition to individuation. Defining the journey toward wholeness as the lifelong integration of the conscious identity with the unconscious potential. Authenticity over performance, moving from a life built on external expectations to one grounded in inner truth and individual values. Tilling the soil, viewing the practices of dream journaling and emotional reflection as ways to create the conditions for natural, inevitable personal growth. The shift in dream tone. Recognizing that as you integrate, your dreams naturally move from themes of conflict to themes of guidance and expansive insight. The foundation of wholeness, understanding that personal integration allows for healthier relationships and a more stable, grounded presence in the external world. We have now explored the internal mechanics of growth and the path toward becoming a whole individual. But how does this inner work connect to the spiritual dimension of your life? In the next chapter, we will explore the intersection of dreams, faith, and Chapter 9, Dreams, Faith, and Inner Wisdom. We often view faith and psychology as two separate worlds, one belonging to the quiet contemplation of the spirit, and the other to the rigorous analysis of the mind. Yet, when you look closely at the experience of dreaming, you see that these two paths do not just meet, they are inextricably linked. The wisdom that speaks to you through your dreams is not merely a collection of psychological data points. It is a resonance with something deeper, something timeless, and something profoundly spiritual. When you lean into the process of understanding your unconscious, you are essentially engaging in a modern form of pilgrimage. You are honoring the truth that has been whispered since antiquity: the search for meaning is, at its core, a search for the divine presence within. Think back to the profound idea that the kingdom of God is within you. This is not just a theological statement. It is a psychological reality. It suggests that everything you need to understand your purpose, your value, and your path is already located inside the vast landscape of your own consciousness. When your dreams present you with symbols of light, of journeys, or of quiet, profound authority, they are echoing this ancient truth. They are pointing you toward a source of guidance that is not dependent on external validation or material success. This inner wisdom is the still, small voice that is always available to you, even in the loudest, most chaotic moments of your daily life. Why does the unconscious choose to use this sacred language? Because faith requires a level of trust that logic cannot provide. Your conscious mind wants guarantees. It wants to know the why and the how before it takes a single step. But the life of the spirit, and the life of the unconscious, requires you to walk by faith, not by sight. When you have a dream that leaves you with a feeling of profound peace, even if you don't understand the imagery, you are experiencing a moment of grace. You are being given a glimpse of a reality that is larger than your current circumstances. That feeling of peace is the hallmark of inner wisdom. It is the confirmation that you are aligned with your true north. This integration of dreams and faith allows you to move past the fear of the unknown. We are often terrified of the future because we feel we are navigating it alone. But when you recognize that your unconscious is in constant dialogue with a deeper, intuitive intelligence, you realize you are never truly without direction. Your dreams act as a lighthouse. They do not illuminate the entire coastline, but they do show you where the rocks are and where the safe harbor lies. They provide exactly the amount of guidance you need for the present moment, allowing you to move forward with confidence, even when the path ahead is obscured by mist. It is also important to consider the concept of surrender. In many spiritual traditions, surrender is not about giving up, it is about letting go of your need to control the outcome. This is the exact same discipline required in dream work. You cannot force a dream to be meaningful, just as you cannot force a spiritual breakthrough. You can only prepare the way. You can keep your journal, you can maintain your curiosity, and you can stay committed to the practice of self-reflection. By doing this, you are practicing a form of surrender. You are telling your psyche, and the divine intelligence that informs it, that you are ready to listen. This perspective changes how you view your challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me? How is this shaping my soul?" This is a spiritual shift of the highest order. It transforms your daily life into a series of opportunities for growth. You see that your conflicts are not just problems, they are catalysts for refinement. You see that your successes are not just trophies, they are evidence of your alignment. You are finding a thread of meaning that runs through every experience, connecting your past, your present, and the potential of your future. Many people find that their dream life becomes a vital component of their prayer or meditative practice. When you have a dream that feels particularly heavy or confusing, bring it into your quiet time. Do not try to solve it in your head. Instead, sit with the image and invite a sense of stillness. Ask for the perspective of your inner wisdom. You will often find that the answer comes, not as a sudden flash of logic, but as a deepening of your understanding. You will realize that the dream was not meant to be a riddle to be cracked, but a meditation to be experienced. It was inviting you to sit in a particular feeling and to let that feeling work on your heart. This journey is ultimately about trust. You are learning to trust that your inner world is not a dangerous place, but a sanctuary. You are learning to trust that the symbols, the figures, and the stories that emerge from your sleep are for your benefit. And most importantly, you are learning to trust the you that is doing the looking. You are realizing that you possess a faculty of discernment that is capable of separating the wheat from the chaff, the profound from the superficial, and the truth from the illusion. This is the mark of a person who has reclaimed their inner authority. As you look forward, consider how you can make your dream life a more intentional part of your spiritual path. Do not treat your dreams as separate from your values or your beliefs. Allow them to inform your growth. Let them challenge your assumptions. Let them inspire your compassion. You are the bridge between two worlds, the material and the spiritual, and your dreams are the language that allows you to walk across it. You are never left to walk this path without a compass. The guidance you seek is always being offered, you simply need to remain open, keep your heart humble, and continue to listen. Summary of key concepts. The spiritual pilgrimage, viewing the work of self-discovery through dream analysis as a modern, psychological form of spiritual journeying. Inner authority, recognizing that the kingdom within is the source of genuine guidance, reducing the need for constant external validation. Walking by faith. Understanding that trusting the unconscious requires the same leap of faith as spiritual practice, moving away from a need for rigid logic. The power of surrender, aligning the practice of dream work with the spiritual act of letting go of control and allowing wisdom to emerge in its own time. Integrated discernment, using the insights gained from dreams to inform your daily values, fostering a life that is both psychologically sound and spiritually grounded. We have now explored the deep connection between your inner world and your spiritual development. In our next chapter, we will discuss how to move beyond merely reading these messages and start actively listening to the unconscious mind, Chapter 10, Listening to the Unconscious Mind. To listen to the unconscious mind is to practice the art of presence. We often treat our internal life as a background hum, something that exists while we are busy attending to the real business of the day. But when you make the decision to listen, really listen, you change the nature of your existence. You shift from being an observer of your life to being a participant in a profound, ongoing dialogue. This is not about constantly obsessing over your thoughts or overanalyzing every flicker of emotion, it is about cultivating a receptive state. It is about learning to recognize the signals that your mind is sending and creating a space where those signals can be heard and integrated. The first step in this practice is to cultivate a listening mindset throughout the day. This begins with the way you wake up. Instead of immediately grabbing your phone or diving into the urgent demands of your morning, give yourself a few minutes of quiet. Keep a notebook beside your bed and, even if you only remember a fragment of a feeling or a single image, write it down. Do not worry about structure or grammar, just capture the raw data. This simple act sends a powerful signal to your unconscious, I am listening. I value what you have to say. You will find that as you consistently record these fragments, your memory for dreams begins to improve. Your mind, seeing that its messages are being received and stored, starts to send clearer, more coherent signals. Throughout the day, look for the echoes of your dreams. Your unconscious does not stop working when you wake up, it continues to process, to reflect, and to comment on your experience. You might notice that a symbol from your dream reappears in a conversation, in a book you are reading, or in a sudden insight you have while commuting. These are the bridges between your night and your day. When you spot an echo, take a moment to acknowledge it. Ask yourself what it might be connecting to. By doing this, you are validating the continuity of your own consciousness. You are realizing that you are the same person in the boardroom, in the grocery store, and in the deep, symbolic theater of your sleep. It is also vital to practice the art of holding the question. We are conditioned to want immediate answers. When a dream is confusing or emotionally charged, our ego demands a label, "This means I am stressed," or "This means I am afraid." But labels often kill the meaning before it has a chance to bloom. Instead of forcing an answer, try holding the dream as a question. What is this image inviting me to notice about my current direction? How is this feeling serving my growth? When you hold a question, you keep your mind in a state of open inquiry. You allow the answer to arrive on its own schedule, often when you are doing something entirely unrelated, like walking, gardening, or washing dishes. The best insights rarely arrive when we are straining to find them. They arrive in the quiet spaces we create. Another essential component of listening is to develop a relationship with your body. Your body is the anchor of your unconscious. It feels the truth long before your mind can articulate it. When you are feeling triggered, anxious, or strangely exhilarated, pause and direct your attention inward. Ask, what is the physical sensation right now? Do not look for an intellectual explanation, just feel the sensation. Your body is a map of your internal landscape, and it often holds the keys to decoding your dreams. If you dream of being held back, and you feel a constriction in your throat during the day when you are about to speak your truth, you have found a direct link. By paying attention to these physical cues, you become fluent in the language of your own energy. This practice also requires you to develop a sense of discernment. Not every dream is a deep, profound message from the soul. Sometimes, our dreams are simply the brain's way of organizing the clutter of the day, the emails you read, the movies you watched, the stresses of your commute. As you become more practiced, you will develop a gut feeling for what is significant. You will recognize the dreams that carry weight, those that leave you with a lingering, visceral feeling or a sense of truth, and you will learn to gently set aside the ones that are merely the noise of daily life. This is not about dismissing your mind, it is about respecting your own energy by focusing on what truly matters. Living with this kind of awareness can sometimes feel intense, but it is deeply grounding. You are no longer living on the surface of your life. You are connected to a source of intelligence that is much wider and deeper than your conscious intellect. You are learning to trust the process of your own unfolding. You are learning that you are not a static entity but a dynamic, ever-changing journey. You are realizing that your unconscious is not a stranger to be feared, but a companion who knows the way home, even when you feel lost. As you commit to this practice of listening, be patient with the learning curve. You are developing a skill that you have likely ignored for years. There will be days when the messages are loud and clear, and days when the signal seems quiet or distant. That is perfectly normal. The key is to remain consistent in your curiosity. Keep your notebook, stay connected to your sensations, and keep asking the questions. The more you show up for the conversation, the more vibrant it will become. You are building a lifetime of self-awareness, one insight at a time. You are learning that the most important conversations you will ever have are the ones you have with yourself, in the quiet, hidden, and profoundly wise corners of your own mind. Summary of key concepts. The receptive state, cultivating a mindset of openness throughout the day, rather than viewing dream analysis as a once-a-day task. The ritual of recording, using a bedside notebook to capture dream fragments, which signals to the unconscious that you are an active, attentive participant. Connecting the dots, learning to identify echoes of dream symbols in waking life to bridge the gap between your unconscious and your external reality. Holding the question. Resisting the urge for immediate, ego-driven explanations and instead keeping your mind open to deeper, more authentic insights. Body as anchor, utilizing somatic awareness as a reliable tool for tracking emotional truths and decoding the messages within your dreams. We have now established the habits that turn your awareness into a daily practice. In our next chapter, we will discuss the signs that your work is paying off. We will explore what happens when your recurring dreams finally change, marking the successful integration of a lesson and the opening of a new. Chapter 11, When Dreams Begin to Change. There is a moment in the life of a seeker that is both quiet and monumental. It occurs when you wake up and realize, perhaps with a sudden sense of lightness, that a theme that has haunted your nights for weeks or months has finally dissolved. The house you were always lost in is no longer appearing. The locked door you struggled to open has vanished, or perhaps, in your final dream of that sequence, you simply walked through it with ease. This is the hallmark of integration. It is the tangible evidence that the message you are carrying has been read, understood, and woven into the fabric of your conscious life. When your dreams change, it is a sign that you have successfully graduated from a particular lesson. Do not assume that the end of a recurring dream means the end of your growth. Quite the contrary, it is a sign that you have developed the psychological maturity to move on to the next set of challenges. Life is a spiral, not a straight line. You will always encounter new layers of your being, new aspects of the shadow, and new archetypal energies that are waiting to be explored. The difference is that now, you are better equipped to handle the journey. You have learned the rhythm of your own unconscious. You know that when a new, challenging pattern emerges, you do not need to panic. You have a process, a set of tools, and a history of successful integration to rely on. You have moved from a place of helplessness to a place of agency. What does it feel like when a dream changes? It often feels like a shift in internal weather. You might notice that your dreams move from scenes of high conflict or anxiety to scenes of greater clarity and purpose. You may find yourself navigating landscapes that are more open, more expansive, and more illuminated. This is a reflection of your own expanding consciousness. As you stop suppressing your true self and begin to own your strengths, your dreams naturally reflect this new, more integrated personality. The figures that once seemed like enemies or threats begin to appear as mentors, or they disappear entirely, having been assimilated into your conscious identity. It is helpful to look back at your journals during these periods of transition. When you see the arc of your development written out, how a specific fear evolved, how a confusing symbol eventually became clear, how a recurring struggle eventually resolved, you gain a sense of perspective that is profoundly empowering. You realize that you have been in a collaborative relationship with your own mind all along. You realize that the hard periods of your life were not periods of stagnation, but periods of incubation. You are being prepared for the next phase, refined by the very challenges you once wished would simply go away. As your dreams change, your waking life often changes in tandem. You may find yourself more comfortable saying no to things that no longer serve you, or more courageous in saying yes to opportunities that feel aligned with your purpose. You might notice that relationships that were once fraught with misunderstanding become more fluid and honest, or that you are attracting different types of opportunities altogether. This is the external manifestation of your internal integration. When you shift your energy, you shift your reality. You are no longer living in a reactive loop, you are living a life that is directed by a deeper, more authentic sense of self. This is not to say that life will become effortless. Transformation rarely is. But the quality of your engagement with life will change. You will have a greater capacity to handle the inevitable ups and downs without losing your center. You will have a deeper well of compassion for yourself and for others. You will find that your intuition is sharper, your decision-making is more grounded, and your sense of purpose is clearer. You are becoming a person who can hold the weight of their own experience and still remain open, curious, and vital. This is the definition of maturity. As you navigate these new chapters in your dream life, remember to maintain the humility that brought you this far. Do not fall into the trap of thinking you have finished the work. The unconscious is vast, and the human potential for growth is infinite. There will always be more to uncover, more to integrate, and more to understand. But take heart in the progress you have made. Acknowledge the courage it took to face the nightmares, the patience it required to decode the symbols, and the commitment it demanded to keep listening to the quiet voice within. If you find that your dreams are currently in a state of flux, that they feel chaotic, changing, or hard to pin down, trust that this is the nature of transition. When you are between lessons, when you have finished one cycle but haven't fully committed to the next, your dreams may feel in between. They may be filled with imagery of travel, of waiting, or of preparation. This is a natural phase. It is the pause between the inhale and the exhale. Use this time to rest, to integrate, and to celebrate the ground you have gained. You are in a sacred space of unfolding, and the wisdom you need for the next step will arrive in due time. As you look toward the future, ask yourself, what do I want my life to become? Then, watch your dreams. They will show you the path. They will show you the hurdles, the resources, and the potential that is waiting to be realized. You are an active participant in the creation of your reality, and your dreams are the maps, the compass, and the narrative of your journey. You are no longer a traveler who is lost, you are a person who knows how to read the landscape. You are a person who is moving, with intention and grace, toward the fullness of who you are meant to be. Summary of key concepts. The mark of integration, understanding that the cessation or change of a recurring dream is clear evidence that an inner lesson has been successfully learned and integrated. Growth as a spiral. Recognizing that life is not a linear progression, and that every resolved lesson prepares you for a deeper, more sophisticated level of self-discovery. Internal weather, observing how internal psychological shifts directly correlate with changes in the emotional tone and clarity of your dream landscape. The synchronicity of change, seeing how the internal work of dream integration ripples outward, positively affecting your relationships, choices, and overall vitality. The value of transition. Viewing the in-between periods of your dream life not as a loss of focus, but as a necessary and sacred phase of incubation and preparation for the next stage of growth. We have now explored the full arc of the dreamwork journey, from the first mysterious hook to the peaceful resolution of our most persistent internal battles. In our final chapter, we will discuss how to carry this wisdom into your everyday life, ensuring that you live with the same level of depth, awareness, and purpose that you have discovered in your Chapter 12, Living with Greater Awareness. The true test of your inner work is not what happens when you are asleep, it is what happens when you are wide awake. You have spent this journey learning to decode the language of the unconscious, to face the shadows, to embrace the archetypes, and to trust the quiet intuition that guides your soul. Now, you stand at the threshold of integration. The challenge is to bring this depth, this curiosity, and this profound self-awareness into the ordinary moments of your daily existence. You are no longer just living a life, you are crafting a narrative, informed by the wisdom of your deepest self. Living with greater awareness means recognizing that there is no boundary between your inner and outer worlds, they are two sides of the same coin. Consider how you approach your daily tasks. Do you move through them with a sense of autopilot, or do you bring a conscious intention to your actions? When you are fully awake to yourself, you realize that your interactions, your work, and your commitments are all expressions of your internal state. If you find yourself frequently irritated, anxious, or rushed, pause and look inward. Is this a reflection of a pattern you've encountered in your dreams? Are you projecting an unaddressed need onto your circumstances? By practicing the same level of inquiry in your day that you do in your journal at night, you stop being a victim of your mood and start becoming the architect of your emotional experience. Living with awareness also means cultivating a deeper sense of empathy for the people around you. Once you have done the hard work of acknowledging your own shadow, your capacity for anger, your hidden insecurities, your judgmental tendencies, you lose the ability to judge others so harshly. You recognize that everyone you encounter is also navigating their own complex inner world, struggling with their own recurring patterns, and seeking their own version of wholeness. You become a person who listens more, assumes less, and responds with greater grace. This is the natural fruit of self-knowledge. When you have made peace with the monster within, you no longer feel the need to see monsters in the people you meet. This awareness extends to your relationship with your own potential. You are now attuned to the call of your life. You recognize that the moments of expansion, the quiet stirrings of curiosity, and the sudden impulses to create or connect are not accidental. They are the same forces that populate your dreams, pushing you toward your unique expression of purpose. When you live with awareness, you stop ignoring these calls. You start saying yes to the things that make you feel truly alive. You take the risks that are aligned with your soul, knowing that the journey is more important than the certainty of the outcome. You learn to trust your inner navigation system. There will, of course, be moments when you slip back into old habits. There will be days when the stress of the world feels heavy and you feel disconnected from the inner sanctuary you have worked so hard to build. Do not judge yourself for this. Awareness is not a state of perfection, it is a state of return. The moment you notice you have drifted, the moment you realize you are acting out of fear rather than love, or out of routine rather than intention, you have already returned to work. That awareness is your victory. It is the bridge that leads you back to your center. A person of awareness is not one who never stumbles, it is one who knows exactly how to get back on the path. As you look at the world around you, start to see it through the lens of symbolism. The challenges you face, the people you meet, and the environments you inhabit are all part of a larger conversation. You might find that a difficult conversation with a colleague is actually a reflection of a boundary you need to set in your private life. You might find that a new hobby you feel drawn to is the exact key to unlocking a dormant part of your creativity. When you live with awareness, the world becomes a place of constant, meaningful instruction. You are no longer drifting through life, you are participating in a profound, ongoing unfolding. You are finding the meaning that is woven into the texture of every day. This way of living is the ultimate expression of the kingdom within. You are acknowledging that your worth, your peace, and your direction are not external commodities to be acquired, but internal treasures to be cultivated. You have moved from a place of seeking validation to a place of honoring your own truth. You have built a home within yourself that is sturdy, compassionate, and wise. You are no longer searching for the answers, you are living them. You have become the person you were meant to be, not a fixed object, but a living, breathing, evolving work of art. As you continue this journey, remember to hold on to your curiosity. It is the fuel for your growth. Keep asking questions of yourself. Keep reading the signs in your daily life. Keep staying attentive to the echoes of your soul. Your dreams will continue to guide you, your shadow will continue to challenge you, and your intuition will continue to whisper the way forward. You are an explorer of the infinite, and the territory you are mapping is your own divine potential. Live with intention, live with courage, and live with the quiet confidence that you are exactly where you need to be. You have the wisdom, you have the tools, and you have the light. The path is yours to walk, and every step is a sacred act of becoming. Summary of key concepts. The seamless self, recognizing that there is no division between your inner world and outer reality. Your conscious life is the stage where your inner integration is tested and lived. The path of return, understanding that awareness is not about permanent perfection, but about the ability to recognize when you've drifted and quickly return to your center. Universal empathy. Developing profound compassion for others as a direct result of doing your own shadow work and acknowledging the complexity of the human condition. Living the call, learning to act on the intuitive impulses and creative stirrings that mirror the expansive, purposeful themes found in your most significant dreams. The sacred daily life. Transforming ordinary existence into a meaningful journey by viewing challenges, interactions, and environments as part of an ongoing, instructive closing. We have traveled a long road together, navigating the winding paths of the unconscious to arrive at a place of deeper understanding. What we have explored is not merely a method for interpreting nightly visions, but a philosophy for living a more awakened life. Throughout this journey, you have seen that your dreams are not random flickers of static. They are, in truth, the most honest, consistent, and compassionate companions you will ever have. They are the mirror of your soul, holding up the parts of you that you have forgotten, the potentials you have yet to claim, and the truths you have been too afraid to name. When you look back on where you started, consider how much your perspective has shifted. You began with a curiosity about why the same patterns returned, a sense that there was a mystery waiting to be solved. You now understand that the mystery was not an external riddle, but an invitation to look inward. You have learned that your unconscious mind is not a collection of fragmented, confusing imagery, but a sophisticated system of symbolic language, a dialect of the heart that expresses what words often fail to capture. By moving from a literal interpretation to a symbolic one, you have reclaimed the ability to read the signs of your own growth. You have walked through the fire of the shadow, facing the figures and the fears that you once kept tucked away in the dark. You have learned that these encounters were not threats to your identity, but necessary steps toward your completion. By turning toward the fear rather than running from it, you have transformed terror into insight, and resistance into power. You have integrated the archetypal energies that govern the human experience, recognizing that your personal struggle is part of a grand, universal narrative of becoming. You have learned that you are not just an actor in your life's drama, but the director, capable of choosing how you engage with the energies that move through you. Above all, you have discovered the profound truth that wholeness is not a state of perfection, but a state of presence. You have built a bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, creating a dialogue that will sustain you for the rest of your life. You have moved from a life of autopilot to a life of intention, realizing that every moment is a piece of the puzzle you are assembling. The wisdom you have tapped into is not distant or abstract, it is the kingdom within, the deep, intuitive truth that has always been waiting for you to stop, listen, and honor its presence. As you move forward, do not lose the tools you have gathered. The journal by your bed, the habit of pausing to check your inner pulse, the curiosity that asks, why, instead of just reacting, these are the foundations of your ongoing transformation. Life will continue to present its challenges, and your unconscious will continue to be your faithful guide. When you feel lost, remember the landscape you have learned to navigate. When you feel afraid, remember the power you found in turning toward the dark. When you feel disconnected, remember the deep, grounding roots of your own identity. You are supported by a vast, internal intelligence that is constantly working toward your evolution. There is a beautiful, unfolding quality to a life lived with awareness. You are becoming a person who can hold the weight of their own experience with grace, a person whose life reflects the depth of their inner work. You are no longer searching for meaning in the world, you are bringing meaning to it. You are living out the truth of your own soul, moment by moment, breath by breath. This is the ultimate goal of the work we have shared, to live as an integrated, authentic, and whole human being who is fully awake to the gift of their existence. Thank you for the courage you have shown in looking at the hidden corners of your own mind. Thank you for the patience you have exercised in learning the language of your symbols, and for the trust you have placed in the process of your own unfolding. You are far more capable, far more resilient, and far more connected to the divine wisdom within than you ever realized. The door you have opened is one that will never fully close again. The journey of self-discovery is, in fact, the only journey that truly matters. Walk it with confidence, walk it with compassion, and above all, walk it with the knowledge that you are exactly who you are meant to be. Your dreams will continue to speak.